Hey folks, Nick Tockert here with the Historical Fencing Guild. Before we get into it, we have to pay some bills. So first and foremost, I will shout out to our good friends over at the Independent Creator Directory. That's IndieCD.org, your one-stop shop for the best and the brightest authors, artists, and musicians. You can find out a lot of people's information, including my own there. We're also made possible very much by the Simple Sword, the Fighting Axe, and the Simple Spear, all part of my ongoing series of Western martial arts manuals designed to help you, my camera guy, go from having never handled the sword to teaching the art to others. There we are. And of course, my amazing Patreon donators who, because of you guys, I can do very important things. And we're going to talk about the very important things. Thank you. Wanted to make sure I have a beverage that we do. I just need to do that, and I need to do that now. Part of what we do is something that is actually the longest standing practice of the Historical Fencing Guild has been the Historical Fencing Guild's workshops, during which we talk about the basics of techniques, the basis of form. There is no sparring during these, one for insurance and safety reasons, and another for the idea of focus. Getting people to come out and spar is frankly relatively easy. Getting people to come out and discuss is very hard. So we have been doing that. Now, what I do with the money the patrons give me, one thing that's very important, it's something you don't see, is I train a lot of individual people. The vast majority, due to their background, they don't want an audience. They don't want notoriety. Sometimes they're still dealing with the shame that comes aside surviving certain types of trauma. Sometimes it's the fear. Sometimes it's either governmental or corporate necessity. But almost everybody I teach at one point or another ends up with one of these. Sorry, my camera angle got a little messed up, so I'm having trouble lining it up. This is probably the simplest and greatest tool for teaching the basics of Western martial arts that you can find. Now, this is obviously not a staff. This right here, and I have not modified it, nor improved it, nor decorated it deliberately so that you can see what this is. And I buy these constantly. This is a 7/8 inch by 36 inch dowel rod. Usually they're poplar. I believe this one is as well, because that's usually the inexpensive wood. It's not listed, which means it's probably poplar. Oh, it was made in August of 24. Cool. Okay. Occasionally you can find them in oak, which is even better. These are 2 size 7/8 chair feet. You get these in sets of 4. I tend to buy 2 sets of these, 8, 4 sets of these at a run. Each one runs about $5, okay, at modern pricing. That's not factoring in gas or anything silly. However, this right here for learning the basics of Western martial arts, weapon-based martial arts, is the most vital tool. And I have, because of you guys, I've been able to basically hand these out. I'm going to need to see if I have a ruler, because I usually do some slight modification to these just to make life easier. It doesn't need to be perfect, but we can talk about that. This is my preferred training drill. I tell people, do not hit with each other with them when we're drilling and things, because if they break, they will splinter and you could hurt somebody. But they will hold up to contact. They will hold up to certain types of issue. And they have a secret trick. Now, why am I talking about this? This is something ubiquitous that people can carry without attracting too much attention. It is short enough that you can use it to train longer weapon techniques indoors. It's long enough to adequately treat both shorter non-linear weapons, machete lengths, and of course something a little closer to rapier, closer to fencing. It's going to be short if you're running it fencing wise, but that's okay. Again, I may just mark this one up. If that's something you guys want to see, tell me. I will show you the methodology there. I've made several, but the thing is, by the very nature of this kind of device, they don't stay with me. They're supposed to go. But what happened and why this matters is yesterday I was at the D&D game for the teens. Tweens and teens. Now, several of my teens are graduating essentially from gaming at the tweens and teens level, which the hard cut is 19. And I do that because if I don't do that, adults will try to take over the youth program. But that means they phase out. However, I only train people, as a rule, over the age of 18. Okay? So that they can sign waivers, we can be safe. And I can protect myself and my resources. Now, when we look at the basics, I can use this to run through all the guards. With this, and usually a piece of chalk, I can do what I did yesterday, which is walk through a simple version of footwork, so that when people are learning how to drill, they can also learn how they should be holding their sword while they're drilling and how they should be doing their footwork. Okay? It allows me to give a very good example of why we do things. So one thing I will do is I will draw a modified version of the circle and the cross, a footwork system I got from some of the Destrezza, Verdadero Destrezza. Forgive my enunciation. I can barely speak the English language sometimes. To teach basic footwork and incorporate the idea of Spanish / offline footwork-based attacks and counters. Because very, very often, what I am fighting, what I'm training, the vast majority of the time are smaller fencers and are very often defensive or almost passively minded individuals, because those are usually the ones who find what I do most palatable. when someone is physically capable and confident, and I love working with those people, don't get me wrong, they don't quite need the same aid and treatment as somebody who might be smaller or less confident or less aggressive. So we have to work with that. I always believe in training as though you are in a weaker state than you actually are. So you're always calibrated to your worst day, not training like you're in your best day. As a student, ironically, for me to teach, I have to make sure that I've taken every step I can to make sure that any day I'm training is one of my best days. And we're going to talk about that. Because I have newer students, and they are very glad of it. They need the same work. Many of them haven't hit their full growth potential or are shorter. So I can work with these ideas. I did, however, promise that those who come and check out my channel, especially check out my current live streams, will have access and sort of a refresher on what I lectured during the practices or the workshops. Practices only happen basically on my own property after waivers are signed. And that's something that we'll maintain after we have the situation next door settled. In a couple weeks, my world will be a very different place. And I'm excited. I am slightly concerned, but I'm excited. Now, so what I'm going to do tonight is give a version of the lectures that I was giving during that first session. And if all goes well, barring major purchases, as we establish a regular, session time for this program, I will be able to then cover it back up here. No, not cover it back up. That's not right. Recover. Oh, God. My aphasia got me so hard. Anyway, give you a video of the content. I am not pre-recording these in the hopes that the students who actually participate may eventually drop into the comments and ask the questions that maybe they didn't ask before. So what I am going to do now is bring up my art program. I'm going to set that up over here. And I'm going to bring this over to this screen so that you guys can see functionally what I am talking about. And I am thinking I want not that model. Shoot, I always get it wrong. That model. There we go. This way, it's easier for me to cut in and out of what we discussed. Now, I'm going to put this down because I need my pen, not my sword. You may laugh at that. So what we discussed at practice, and those of you who are not able to attend these, feel free to chime in and ask respectful questions, is the absolute rudiments. So let's cover it over here. This is going to be my whiteboard. Workshop 1, maybe 0. We may consider this, a session 0 kind of situation. This is a little thick, and that's going to be uncomfortable for me. Let me see. We covered, oops, not negative. This is going to be, there we go. We covered 9 basic guards. Oh, my brain just farted. Plus transitions. So what that isn't just, okay, first position, second, third, whatever. It's how you'd flow into and out of. Okay, we covered the drilling. Let me do this like this. Sorry. Wants to be viable. Oldest video on this channel. I am not planning to reshoot this right now. So all you have to do is go to the oldest video on this channel, and you will see a much younger version of me walking through the 9 basic guards. We covered basic and some intermediate footwork. Not word work, handlism. Okay. Hello, Stephanie. How are you, my dear? I hope you get feeling better, because I am starting to train up a batch of newly minted adults. And before they flee the coop to go to various points in their lives, I'm running them through the basics you've heard many, many times. In what will be no doubt a flashback to our past. I know you're still feeling sick. I'm sorry to hear that. But at least this is entertaining. And because this is what we covered for the most part. We had some basic parry concept discussion. Okay? This is what we went through at the workshop yesterday. They are not scheduled. I will definitely be doing a redo of this material, probably fairly frequently. It's just a matter of me getting there. And again, to people who this seems repetitive for, we have new students. I want to build the basics on the ground up. So the first thing we went over, it was the joy of chalk. And on the sidewalk, we made the Swordmaster's hopscotch. I told you it was based on the circle and the cross. This is not to scale, and it's a little shaky because I kind of overdid it yesterday. And with the weather, my physical nerves are fried. My mental nerves are okay. But we went through this that looks sloppy as heck. I will be redoing this again with prettier work later. This lovely pattern. Now, I will discuss this pattern with you, gleefully. I am going to be doing this as a right-handed person. That is not to say anything negative about left-handed people, because you're going to have to be able to do all this stuff ambidextrously, and I will train the living pants off of you until such time as you can do this with an ambidextrous method. But, as again said, left-handed is superior if you can pull it off. I totally agree, Steph. I should bring your comment up here. See, we do have somebody in the chat. But the very first thing people learn is how to stand. No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to keep to rough white. Oh, I love having essentially a digital whiteboard. Okay. You are going to stand roughly your feet about shoulder width. Apart. Knees slightly bent. Dominant hand forward. All right? The premise on basic footwork is we take a whole bunch of skills away to make sure you can handle the rudiment, and then later you get them back. It's sort of like learning very basic dance. So what happens is we start with this diagram, and you spend a lot of time in here. Guys, I almost feel sorry about that. Oh, your knee should be bent. Let me pick a different color. We'll take orange. This is facing your enemy, LOA, being line of attack. We'll talk about that more often. You don't want to be perfectly parallel. You don't want to square up like a boxer. Square up like a boxer, you're too wide of a shot. If you go straight flat line, your offhand is basically tangled up beyond use. This leaves us with the only option of about this odd, 45-degree angle. Okay? This is how you're going to work. Now, I'm going to add a layer because I want to be able to play with this a bit. If we go red and green, just to make it easier for me, you always move first with the foot that is closest to where you are going. That means you're not going to cross your feet, right? Yes. Because at the beginning, if you do not have a lot of experience, you become very vulnerable when your legs are crossed. And we have to hammer into your brain which foot is where and what it should be doing. So, if you are advancing, okay, so we'll just do this in light blue. If you are going straight left, you are extended, so you're in a wider stance than right, okay? So that means 1, 2. Do you get that? Right? I mean, this is going to make real basic sense. For Steph, this poor girl has had this hammered into her for years and years and years. Poor lady. I should call her a girl. She's a mother, for F's sake. But if you're advancing to the right, oops, that is not the color I want. It would be 1, first your lead foot, then your back foot. 2. So we get the pattern. No. 1, 2. If you are advancing to the left, so you're moving lateral to the left, you're still facing forward. Oh, absolutely. I love to give reminders. It's going to switch over because this is the kind of thing that you can mentally process before you're getting in shape. 1, 2. Because if you look, the left foot is closer to the left line. Oops, over tap that. And if you are retreating, it goes left foot back, right foot back. And I know this looks and sounds dull, but when you're not sure, when your body is exhausted from practice or work, you are going to need this in your soul. Now, yes, it gets interesting when you are going diagonals. Now, I will cover diagonals briefly. Diagonals are usually shorter steps. And again, with the diagonals, you're going to usually lead foot forward, rear foot backward. Not always. And this is where you will eventually be dealing with things like how you cross your foot, and you'll eventually get to things like transverse stepping. But that is more advanced than where we are today. Right now, we are just walking through the bare minimum. Okay? So if I hide this, how much do I have left? Excellent. Going to add another layer. That way I can keep track of what I'm doing. That covers the cross portion of the diagram. The circle portion is where, I'm going to make this a good bit wider, this gets talked about. Okay, remember the line of attack? This is the line of, I'm just going to say ATK. Okay? This is where the vast majority of swordsmen die. Okay? We need to talk about approaching the line of attack. There are only 2 methods. Method 1, control it with blade. Work. Method 2, avoid with foot work. What does this mean? There is some validity to this. So we can take this. I'm going to add another layer because I don't want things to be too confusing. The line of attack I have failed to define thus far can be defined as, so we'll say LOA the shortest distance between opponents. Easy peasy. This is the shortest distance. Directly. What happens, though, actually, I won't redefine that because it's not the shortest. I derped. And I would rather openly derp and make a mistake in my phrasing. It is, so I want to rephrase that. Give me my pen back. The most direct line between two opponents. We'll just say, all right. This is where people die. We talked, you can defend it by using your parries, and we will spend a huge amount of time focusing on how to do that. Your blade, how blade work is concerned will be getting back into the 9 basic guards and transitions, what you're going to do. It is very, there are a lot of steps, there are a lot of options. Understanding the bonehead rudiments of this theory, however, is relatively brief and it combines well. The trick with this theory is you've got your right foot, you've got your left foot. What you are going to do is get the heck off the line of attack, thus forming, that's what I could color. I've got too many options, so my brain's being fraud. A new line of attack that you have established. Okay? And this line is going to be much shorter than that line. It is a tangential attack because the idea of the circle, okay? So we'll say the magic circle. Is the most direct route is the diameter. It is actually the longest. So what that means is the effective swordsman, and when I say swordsman, that is a gender-neutral term that includes men, women, and anybody who may be in between or sideways of that spectrum. Please don't come at me about that. This allows for the a quicker attack, possibly without even moving your arm. So let me go here. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to hide all this for just a second. What do I mean? If we skip a little bit ahead, because we are skipping quite a bit ahead, This is you seen from above. We are fighting single in this case. And yes, that is a cup hilt rapier. Okay, let me move this fellow around. Let me find my move this fellow around button. There it is. Boop. We can now move this fellow around. Yay! Let's see if I can actually almost animate what we want to do. He cannot reach on the direct. How do I want to? We're going to make a target. That's what we need. We need a target to have this make sense. Okay. This is a your opponent. Okay. Add a layer. I'm making life harder on myself than it needs to be. Okay. Let me do this real quick to make this a little clearer. If I did this right, there we go. Okay, we have our circle, right? And I'm going to come right back to this tool to make my life again easier. We have our line of attack. Come back here, make sure his blade is of relatively equal length. It is. Neither can hit each other. Normally, we can come over here. Whoops. There we go. Normally, this person would try to parry, get in, and go for the kill. Had chesticles. We got to move around the chesticles. Well, that'll be part of a slightly different lecture. We will get there, but we will be focusing on that when we are doing fourth gear. I really like the visual aid. Sometimes it's better visual than kinesthetic learning. Well, I'm very glad. Thank you for letting me stumble through as I figure out how I want to phrase this. What you can do, especially if you are the shorter person. So Stephanie getting this part of the lecture is actually perfect. You can move around the line while maintaining, hold on, give me this, your orientation, which is going to put you in a position to take them at a shorter point. This is very, very helpful when someone has longer reach than you. Okay? I forgot to give that person, I understand what you mean by the chesticles now. Hold on, let me go here. Because, well, a little bit. There we go. I forgot to do that. I got distracted. But do you see what happened there? It's hard to get it all in one step, which is fine because it means I can angle it a bit. This is really, really crude animation, but it gets it going. Going from here. Now, yeah, this is close enough. You can go the other side through your footwork. Oops. Do not resize because that's going to cheat everything. You usually have to go a bit farther because you have to get around their outside, around the outside, around the outside. But as you move around, you get a better shot at their kidneys. This is best done and accomplished. What? Oh, yes. Yes. Apply the translation. And easiest done and accomplished if this individual right here, the target, can I have my pen, please? Why are you being funky? Oh, because I forgot to disengage that. There we go. Is moving forward. And with all seriousness to this, I really like this as a visual aid. I'm sometimes better with visual than kinesthetic, so this is really helpful. I'm really glad to do this for you. This is actually a privilege. And that is something I have to work on, because I like to charge forward with the sword and forget about pivoting to the sides. Absolutely. Now, I am going to do a slight tweak because I need to come over here. Hi. Sorry about the format change, but it's the only way I can get at my ads, and I need just a moment. So I'm going to give you a minute of actually my ads, as noisy as it is, and I will be back in just a minute to continue our lecture. Move, Dusty. Move, Stuart. Sorry about that. There was some cat interference. But thank you for your patience. We'll get right back into that. Normally I'm quicker with that. But we are going to move right back to where we belong. And we're going to bring this right back. Okay, thank you for your time and support. Let's see. Did I miss a comment? Invisible Man. Sorry about that. How do you get, the next question people ask is, how do you not get poked necessarily while you're taking this motion? Well, part of it, so we're going to go 1, 2, is understanding the, let me come over here. Let me go basic blade work. C, disengage. Oops, I typed that again mentally. Nick, it's like you have dyslexia or something. I do. The C disengage works very simply. If your opponent's blade were viewed basically head on, so this is the tip of your opponent's blade, you're going to try to gain advantage by going to the inside or outside of his blade. That means usually you're going to want to go to here, and I flipped how I wanted to do that, or you want to go to there. Your tip is, but usually it's on the bottom. So I'm going to color code that better to gain an advantage. In this case, as you're doing this, the tip of your blade, which is strongly presented in 9th, It doesn't have to be, but that's the clearest way to see it. Oh, I fully understand. Crying toddler. I'm going to keep right on lecturing, though, if you don't mind. That is what's going to keep your tip away from their sword to set you up for this. So the only motion that they should be able to track. Let me see if I have range in this. Hold on. We're going to make me a little bit bigger for a second. And this is a little too long. So we're going to use the stick that is every sword is to go around. So what you see, if you're watching me do this, and I wanted to gain the inside, okay, you're holding this in your right hand, and it is pointed at me. I am on the outside. If I wanted to gain the inside, I would do that. See, disengage. Again, usually under. If you're tall, you may go over, but I find that gives you a lot of vulnerability. So to gain the inside, you do that and then advance. To gain the outside, you would do this and then advance. Or that's them doing it to you. So to have you do it. Sorry, it's a little bit of juggling here. Okay, this is your sword. I'm holding my sword, and if you are on the outside, okay, and you want, let me do this like this. You want to get in, you can do that. See, disengage while you're moving. If you're here, you bring your tip under and advance. Okay? Does that make sense? It's been a long time since I've used the system. I'm going to have to modify it slightly. But again, I like to arm you guys and give you a first-person view, even though you're not actually here. Okay? But I hope that's clear. I'm going to go over it one more time. So if this is pointed at me, and I want to get in on you, so if we're in a fairly natural position, unfortunately, I don't have it rigged yet, so I have to hold the sword. So ignore my offhand. I'm going to have to go around and then come in. And even though I am in an office chair, the body mechanic of the hip swivel is actually fairly spot on. So if I'm in Spanish, all you're going to see is the distance is that. There's no tell of the shot. If I'm doing it more Italian or French or whatever, you're going to see pump, shoot. You get what I'm saying? And I'm shooting high so I don't risk poking my computer. But, boom, boom. You get it? A lot of headshots come out of this. This is where we are comparing very simple minimalist blade work with very simple minimalist footwork. It's a concept easy enough that I can do it in a wheelchair. Well, in a wheeled chair. I do not yet need a wheelchair itself. Knock on plastic. But, one second. This is very thirsty work. Understanding, again, how to come off the line, and in this case, dude's going to the outside, but just as easily, let me see, which of this can I hide? I don't even know what that layer has on it. I think I accidentally skipped it. Okay, that's where we are. Okay, just need to make sure I'm working on the right layer. Can I have my pen back? Thank you, Nikolai. Go around and there. And we're going to do this again. If we reset our dude, right, to a very neutral standard stance. From here, his footwork is going to simply go around the circle. At the same time, his body, as he steps, is angling. This is how you get very simple, very effective kills, especially for Stephanie. If Stephanie wants to know how she dies very frequently when sparring, this is a counterpuncher's dream. It can be done offensively. Now, there is another factor to consider about why this is important, especially, again, for Stephanie. I am shrinking us for a moment, okay? The line of attack is going to stay the same because that's where he can reach you. Why this is important is you do the same kind of thing, but you don't bother, sorry. Will you move, please? Thank you. Attacking. Go. There we go. You don't bother attacking the body. When you are shorter and you don't have the reach to get to their body, don't try for it unless they are very aggressive and you are very fast. Arm sniping, see guys, what? I will say yes because I can just hit the undo button if I need to. And I'm going to need to on that one, but let me get my pen back. Thank you. Short. We'll just say fighters because it's a little less aggressive. It's a little less gendered. Snipe. You're going to do this all day. Arm sniping for the smaller fencer, especially using a simplified Spanish approach, is what's going to allow you regularly to defeat larger and stronger opponents within the scope of your conventions. Now, if you are not able to arm snipe because of conventions or you are feeling more fatal, let's see, this is a blank one, right? Yeah, cool. What you do then is you need to focus on baking your finest pardon. There we go. Okay. If not arm sniping, and with all things, you need to focus on your accuracy. You need to focus on knowing your reach, and you need to focus on your timing. I will tell you this. In almost all standard practices, if you can work on these three things, especially with a thrust-based system, this is how you win. This overhangs everything else. This is how you win. There are some other factors, especially since we have Steph in the audience, for shorter fencers. And I'm going to use terms fencers, fighters, swordsmen, all interchangeably. Okay. Targeting. Options. Okay. So we're going to go over here and we're going to discuss that. So this is going to be our big meaning. Okay. This is the taller than you swordsman. I'm going to try to imply a little bit of perspective here to make it easier. Yes, I'm still using circles. Circles are your friends. Okay. And we'll just put that here. Yeah, that's getting a tangent, making it hard to see. Okay, we'll do it a little. Oh, my work got sloppy there. There we go. They're pointing their sword at you. Okay? Beyond all this, you have options. So let's talk about your favorite sword targets. You, of course, we're going to go forearm hand snipe. Now, I like the forearm hand snipe than actually popping on the hand, because there are many times where the sword guard may make it harder to hit the hand. But just beyond the guard, especially in anatomy, there's this nice swell of a forearm, which is begging to be stabbed. Real life stabbing, that may not fully disable somebody. Do it right, you're going to cut tendons and they're going to drop what they're holding. The pain will usually make people drop what they're holding. But the bleed out factor and the, oh my God, I've been stabbed in the hand, to most civilian thugs is going to, yes, your sword craves fingies. If you can get them, cool. This is if you can't get the actual hand fingies. Still same idea. That you can get the upper arm, tasty bicep. Especially when the aggressive guys are real fast. The tasty bicep does a couple things. You have to guard against hard shots because they're advancing. So that's, if you look at the body mechanics, that's moving even more forward. So these are where hard shots hit. But these are tasty. Right there. Oh, right here is a nerve cluster. Little lower you get in. Now, if you could get the armpit, oh, it's over. That would be an anime style artist. Absolutely. We're going to get there. Oh, gosh, you have listened to my lectures. If you can get under, because I'm going to keep working, but I'm going to go around. Because you could do all this on either side. You might snipe around and hit their offhand. They're not going to like that. But what you really want are here. This is good. We like kidneys. Around here, we really like kidneys. If you're doing body shots. Okay? Now, if you can get a cut or a draw, because sometimes you actually end up doing it and they go so fast you can move past them and get a draw cut. This is where you're hitting the femoral. Okay? This is nice off. Obviously, you know, the groin is a fatal area, and it's sometimes easier to hit. The other thing is, especially with more lunge-based fencers, so if your opponent is a classical agile fencer, and they absolutely love, hold on, an Olympic-style lunge, for whatever reason, we're even gonna do the pretty, okay? Whatever reason, this knee, oh my gosh, this knee and thigh are wonderful because, yes, okay, I'm going to come over here for a second. In 1v1, legging someone complicates matters. Okay, because now they got to sit and scoot around, and there's a whole thing, depending on your, again, the rules that you're playing by. In melee, leg them and leave them. You've now made them unable to follow you. You've made where they're kneeling. They became a stationary target. And very, very few groups train on what to do if one of their party is legged, especially in any game that somebody dead respawns. However, that's where you will see people game the system, kill their own team member so that they can go respawn and come back full. We'll talk about gaming, metagaming the system in another video. But if you can get here, you probably can get right here. Okay? If you can get there, so you've come around, you flip that shot up, you get the side of their head, beautiful. In most systems, it's game over. We are still focusing on primarily thrust-based attacks. Much of this will calibrate back over to concussive attacks, which we will talk about later. As a rapierist, I always start on thrust-based attacks. But if you miss the headshot, oh no, you've armed them. That's terrible, right? That is a horrible, horrible thing to see.
Yes, I know. The boy's taking it back.
But
you're weird. You don't like that.
Sorry for the interruption. This right here, again, especially for somebody like Steph, especially the shorter fencers, this is going to be your bread and butter. Okay? You have to get off that line. Because, oh, that means I need another one. Okay. We're going to talk about this, and then we'll probably wrap it up for the night. But this is very, very simple. And I'm going to get briefly Asian spiced. Okay? I'm sure Thesis will be possibly annoyed, but that's okay. He can take it up with Sword's Edge. Yin equals accept and redirect force. Yang equals counter. Oops, I typoed that again. Counter force. Counter slash, we'll even say meet force with force. Okay? This matters because close that up. We'll go yin. Well, I'll put this. Linear guards. Tangential footwork. Okay. When you're the weaker party, it makes logical sense for you to yield and redirect the force than try to stop it. Because if you try to stop it, you know you will lose. There are, of course, variants to this, but right now we're keeping it to single blade. Okay, single sword. Once you get things like shields in, the game gets different. Yang offline guards. Direct. Sorry. Footwork. Thrusts. Not thrusts, but lunges. Are you guys seeing the difference? If someone attempts to strike you with a sword and you avoid the sword and counter, that is a yin defense. If someone tries to strike you with a sword and you parry the sword and then try to follow through with your attack, that's a yang defense. Anybody who's seen how I teach the drills has seen the figure eights. All of this should be things you understand and you understand how to do. Because there are times where you will be stronger than your opponent. There will be times when you're weaker than your opponent. Very rarely will you be always the shortest person in the room. Some of you will. Some of you, it's guaranteed. And in many ways, you have an advantage. Because if you know you need to use yin, you're not going to waste any time with yang. if you have the power for yang, most people don't see any reason to bother with yin. It's indirect and wastes time. But the ones who get it understand that this is a spectrum. Our old buddy, the number line, comes out. Everything boils down to number lines, guys. And this isn't, a fixed number. It's to understand. Because if you always do yin, they will predict that. And with that, they can redirect to be applying their force where you're going to be. You understand that? If you are always using yang, they know you're going to bull rush in a straight line. It is bait, feet, destroy. I'm just going to let you come running, and I'm just going to wait, get out of your way, do something horrible to you as you go by. So what you want to do, I find, and this is something I find in life, these are great secrets in life. So I'm going to put this, great secrets. One of the most important ratios you will ever find is 80-20. You will come back to that over and over and over and over again. As you train between your personality and your necessity as a fighter, one of these is going to be your primary mode. And that is fine. It will work very well if you understand it. But the great trick to it is, if you want to be better, you better know your 20. Okay? If we go, we're going to do an axis here, and this is of my logic. This doesn't just apply to fencing. What you're going to find in life, and again, a lot of my students are much on the younger edge, is that life works something like this. Okay? And what this means, I'm going to show you. This is a graph. Is going to affect, it all comes back to this as you go. Okay? The amount of effort you have to get to be at an 80% in anything is vastly less than it takes to get into the upper 20. Okay? And what's worse, unless you are truly pursuing excellence, the diminishing returns for your effort are so small that it becomes a waste of time, because it will take these two amounts are almost equal in effort. but condensed. So, and this isn't to say pursue to lessen your goals, but you can use this much effort right here, what I consider to be the initial sweet spot, right here, okay? Let me get a different color that'll stand out real well. Right here is the balance of where you get the most result for the least energy. You want to go beyond that, I embrace it. I think that's heroic. But right here, my friends, in most of the activities I do is my goal. Because that is an achievable goal. Exactly. And this is something I want to put out. People burn out and then stop doing anything in that last 20%. Do you understand that? And rarely in any field individually is that going to help you. When you could do this, this is, I'm going to say, let me look at this for a second. Let's go. We'll just call this, where's my pen again? Any given skill. Okay? This is smart laziness. Smart laziness is knowing when to work, how to work, and how to make yourself better. Because if you take this much energy, right, in this skill, you can stack it. And what I mean is, you can be practicing of your life energy 3 different skills for the amount of energy that goes into trying to chase one skill to that A level. And I will tell you, survival is a my brain's Chris. And this is me dealing with dyslexia again. Accomplished via versatility. You get that, guys? That makes sense? Versatility. So, if I went and I put all my energy into being the best with single, so you could be like an A rank single fighter. I can be a B ranked single case and dagger. And from experience, I'll put buckler too. Because there's always going to be a rank of things that come naturally, some things that are a little easier. Okay? This is not to prevent excellence. This is to develop a broad base of mastery in multiple skills. This is the real bread and butter that I don't think any other instructor I've ever seen folds into what we do. And to some people, this is absolute madness. This is absolute insanity. But to the folks who need to learn this, to the folks who need to understand this lecture, and especially this end part, can completely change your life. I'll tell you a great secret. This is why your method is easier to accomplish. Okay, another great sort of master secret that I got from my father and I came to understand. Life is simple, just isn't easy. So what I try to do in any skill set is find the simplest way that I can process, because as soon as I can process it, as soon as I can get, as I can get to that 80% understanding, of any given skill, then I can practice and maintain that. With less effort. And when you start to synergize your skills, guys, yes, when you start to synergize your skills, you will find something really weird. And what you will find very often is that this 80% of understanding will start to creep up. You might get up to 85, 87 plus by doing other things that your brain can then network together. What do I mean? What do I mean by that? And this is going out for Steph, primarily, because it's an example I can turn. Timing. Timing. Stephanie, whom I adore, she's one of my favorite people on the planet, I don't see nearly enough of her, is a music teacher and a musician. Hello, some person. And as such, thinks musically. Every musician I know to a point thinks musically. She is thinking, when she thinks, a lot of her world looks something like this. So she's thinking in, tempos. She's thinking in rhythms. She's thinking in timing, which I even have a bit of a heart issue. I do not have adequate rhythm. It's part of what keeps me in my 80%. But if Steph can learn, it makes you predictable. No, not as much. You are consistent, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But what you need to realize is you need to be able to read your opponent for their timing. You may even have to go back and look at the videos. This is why I record videos of practices. So you can see, okay, they're prone to go, attack, pause, attack, 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 pause, attack, pause, attack, pause, attack, pause. Whatever, you're going to find that most people have, oh God, this is going to sound neurodivergent as heck, and I hope it makes sense, but a physical song, a physical rhythm of how they choose to move, how they choose to attack. Now, it's never perfect. Makes a lot of sense, good. But when you can find that, that's how you're going to be able to predict them. And that same consistency that you are worried makes you predictable is what you will allow you to know how and when to respond. Okay, this is going to sound funny. I hope this makes sense because this is blending the Nick understanding of music and swordsmanship. So stuff can get real weird real fast. If someone is playing with a band, we'll throw it at the trumpeters because they're always the most obnoxious. Love you guys, don't get it wrong. But trumpet is playing with the band, they're keeping in time, they're doing everything. Trumpet then drops in, because it's jazz, into a improvisational solo. Okay? While the rest of the band may or may not be playing. Even though that solo is going all over the place, because he's either just noodling around or he's just flat out got it. Okay? Think Miles Davis. Think, oh God, I lost his name. Louis Armstrong. As a musical approach. Even though he's going all over the place, the masters are still somewhat in the rhythm, in the time to fit along with the song they've been playing. But they cannot do that without first having an established rhythm, an established tempo. That's why when you read the books, a lot of people, the tempo, one tempo. You know, you're going to do 2 or 3 things, but you're going to parry and thrust in the same motion. Oh, Fabris. One tempo. I learned it from a lady with a very distinct speech impediment or accent. Not sure which. But when you, as a swordsman, swordswoman, whatever, barbarian, goblin, whatever, get your brain to go from I am playing the bass back beat to going, that's their bass back beat. I'm going to play my solo around it. Then you will suddenly and violently improve your skill. I'm glad you like that. I'm see, she likes that. I'm very glad you like that, because that will help you so much. This is why I make you guys drill against a target, because when you are drilling against a target, and it doesn't matter what you're drilling with, you are learning your range, and you are feeling So you're seeing your range and you're feeling your calibration. Basically, and be willing that balance kicks in. You still need to develop the 20% of yin. And for you, Steph, assuming you balance your calibration and your range out, since you're here, I can do this. For you, whoops, that is not what I need. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I can do it that way. If it wants to be poopy, I can do it that way. We'll just do this. Ha ha! I shall not be defeated by mere standards. Your yin is going to look. Let's say, oh, no. Wrong size. Give me a second. Back. Actually, I need to move them back. This is your target. This is their sword and hand. Their arms are way out because they're long, tall, skinny boys who are far too emo about everything and will remain nameless. Ha! I feel like popping into the Wayback Machine. The red is going to be the energy of Steph. It is going to be understanding to come in and then yin just for a second around your weaker, around your weaknesses, because you may not be strong enough to just knock their sword aside. Does that make sense? Aside from the joke, which I couldn't help, does that make sense to you? Makes a lot of sense. Good. The other way, again, if we're going to do this, is to, well, yes, that's right. That's right. Exterminatus. Sorry, I typoed. Anyway, sorry. My shovel got sharp. Anyway. Is to appear again long enough for them to not realize your yang's kicking in. Blood for the blood god. I have to show you the minis I got. Anyway, offline, off topic. But you're going to find, to improve yourself, you are still going to remain 80% yin, yang. That's just who you are. You fight like you have have certain masculine attributes. You just need to refine your 20% yin. Whereas I usually, so we'll go orange because orange is one of my favorite colors. I almost said favors. Is usually, if you pay attention, I'm 80% yin the vast majority of time, and 20% yang. Now, most of that is because I'm a teacher, because I'm not that kind of aggressive personality most of the time. But when I am very yang. You get what I'm saying? Finding your balance in that level of understanding is what's going to improve your skill. So, since I have Steph, I'm going to give you some homework, Steph. And this is just for your practice as a mental exercise. Okay? And you can do this very easy. It will not be hard work. I want you. We'll get you a new page. Hide this. I want you to review old. These are very old videos on HFG. That's for the people following and may not realize it, youtube.com/at the historical fencing guild. I typed that a bit, but we're not going to worry about that. Here, get rid of that so you don't feel that. There are a few with you fighting. You were very shy, and I understand. Oh, no, you'll be fine. She's running from her homework. Track my timing and then compare it with Trey and then compare it with any more aggressive fighter. Okay? I want you to do that, and any of you guys can do this homework. This is fine. It's not strictly for Steph, but any of you guys can do this to improve yourselves. Okay? All right, folks. I am nearly 40 minutes over, and Steph is moving on to take care of her kid, which I fully understand. Some person was here. I appreciate that. Please like and share this. I will be sending this video expressly to a couple people who desperately need it. If you were on Twitch, please, any way you can support. If you were watching from Kick, any way you can support. The money I get from my guild channel is how I afford to buy a whole bunch of these and give them out. It's how I afford to get masks and replace the masks and gear that gets worn out. There will be crafting videos in the near future. I will probably talk about how to do a pre-recorded video on how to set up one of these bad boys. Till then, guys, I would like you to do your drills, keep your head on a swivel, be kind to yourself and each other, and as always, thank you for supporting your local swordmaster. I will be back with another educational video next week. I'm also streaming 3 times a week on the other channel, the Nicholas Talker channel, if you're watching this through YouTube, and on the same place on Twitch and Kick. So you can see everything there. Some person has been very kind enough to share my Amazon link. Please consider buying my nonfiction works, The Simple Sword, The Simple Spear, and The Fighting Axe. And consider reading my fiction works. I have some really fun fiction that's out there. You might want to get, if you're interested at all, you might want to order it soon because I'll be doing some new covers in the fairly near future. So there may be some collectability there. With that, guys, have a great night. I want you to know I love you and you should too. And I'll see you all very soon. Special thanks to Steph for being so active in the chat and for some person for being just the wonderful soul that they are. All right, guys. Toodles.